My name is Hisham Kassem. I was in Egypt up until February 4th. I never thought I would leave Egypt, but due to the fact that I was unjustly imprisoned last year in a sham trial and found myself on trial again without being even notified this time, I had to leave. I will not go back to Egypt while Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is in power, and I shall not stand in front of the Egyptian judiciary while he is in power. What is happening is outrageous. A number of my colleagues here who have given their testimony already have said enough, so I'll move on. For a backgrounder, I need to make 2 points. One, that the current regime in Egypt is nothing but a mutation of the military coup that happened in 1952. Egypt is currently under military rule for the past 73 years. The second point is that in the early 60s, the military regime realized that brute repression was not enough and control of the economy was necessary for them to stay in power. These 2 points I will refer to later. Now, if we see what happened basically with a setup where the military have to be in power, given this is a military regime, the circumstances led to the fact that a man with very little experience called Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in politics came to power as president after a military coup that he staged and managed to soften it. And given the turbulence and the disturbance that was happening in Egypt, the international community was able to already to close an eye to what was happening. And he was basically clueless on government and how to keep a government going. And the only thing he understood was brute repression. He declared that no officer will be held accountable for any human rights violations or abuses. And that led to a rise in political repression. People were being arrested in the street for no reason. Young men were being asked to surrender their telephones, and the telephones would be searched. A simple joke about the president being exchanged on social media, which would appear on the phone, was enough in some cases to keep people in prison for 10 years. I don't want to go into details because the details are plenty. I was recently in a panel on Political Prisoner Day with Vladimir Kara-Murza from Russia, and it was super embarrassing because he spoke about 1,500 detainees in total. And when it was my turn to speak, there was anything between 60 to 100,000 people. So we're not really talking the necessities of repression here. We're talking about repression psychosis. This has gone out of hand, and there are no guarantees whatsoever. We have a recent case where a blogger who was doing educational video and who was successful, but again, one of the parameters that the regime sets is, as an influencer or a blogger, you are not allowed to exceed certain popularity for the fear that this could be turned political later. So if you're vlogging on medicine or whatever, you risk what this man, Ahmed Abu Zaid, went through. He was arrested, the money he had was confiscated, and he was acquitted by court because it was really ridiculous what was happening and a major international embarrassment. However, the money stayed with the regime. And this is becoming the case where lots of people who get arrested have property, assets or cash stolen by the regime, which takes me to the wider picture of the economic situation, of the economic repression. As I said, with the crackdown that happened in the 60s over capital in order for the regime to control. 10 years later, when Sadat came to power, he realized this assimilation of a socialist regime was not working, and there had to be a lot more space for private enterprise. However, he created a détente with private enterprise as opposed to creating an umbrella of laws and legislation that did protect it. Currently, the private sector, which is providing 80% of the jobs in Egypt, is going through the worst time ever. Their share of bank credit is roughly 26% because the state has basically increased its market share based on loans from the international community. There is a flight of Egyptian capital, and there is a continuous deterioration of the economy. And the international community now is faced with a situation where unless they keep pumping in money, whether it's loans, whether it's hot money, whether it's whatever, selling assets inside Egypt, we have the fear of an economic collapse. And yet the international community, knowing that there is no supervision whatsoever, the media is completely destroyed under Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Parliament is a caricature, it's a joke. And there are no instruments of supervision on public interest and public health, public wealth. The international community continues to give loans to the regime, which they expect us to pay eventually. And in some cases, some of these loans never even entered the country. And it's a growing pattern, and there seems to be almost no way out of it. So where is Egypt headed? I really cannot tell, and I don't think anybody can tell. All we know is that there is a nation that is terrified by deterioration that happened after an uprising, and the fear that a second uprising will deteriorate things further, but the economy continues to deteriorate. At some point, there will be repercussions for that, whether it's going to be excessive social violence, rise of crime, or whether we're going to have another uprising. So it's really time for the international community to begin to take a serious position on what is happening. We don't need for things to reach the level that they reached in Syria. And,
Okay.
and we basically regimes based on repression come to an end at some point. It's not a sustainable situation. I will stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Hisham. Thank you.